Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. Following the truth wherever it leads. Exposing evil and corruption and the secret machinations of powerful elites. Revealing the high strangeness beneath the surface of our supposed reality. Coming to you from the Great White North and his studio beneath the stairs. Here's Richard.
So, again, thank you for those emails. All right, we're going to switch gears. And, I've told this story a number of times over the years, and we're going to get into it here in a little bit, but my one and only encounter with the paranormal occurred just over 26 years ago, a couple of days after my father was laid to rest, who died on New Year's Eve Day, 1986, so we're talking very early in 1987. I had a paranormal encounter. Woke up one night very briefly. I'll get into more details later, but I opened my eyes, and hovering directly above me and parallel so that its head was aligned with my head and its feet aligned with my feet, I woke up, opened my eyes, and I'm staring right in the face of, me, peering into the eyes of my doppelganger. And I've never been able to understand it, never received the satisfactory answers to what that was all about, but I think tonight's the night we're going to get into that and hopefully get some answers. And maybe some of you have had encounters with doppelgangers, German word meaning double goers. Now, I'm not talking about, they say everyone has a twin, right? The mighty Aphrodite says that my doppelganger, I don't know that I agree with her, but she says my doppelganger is Kenneth Branagh, the British actor. I think he's much better looking than I am. However, I guess that's my doppelganger. But we're talking about a paranormal doppelganger here. And here to explain more is one of the leading experts on the paranormal, with more than 50 books published by major houses on a wide range of paranormal, spiritual, and mystical topics, the one and only Rosemary Ellen Guilley. How are you, Rosemary?
Very busy these days, Richard. We've just bought a house, and so we're in the midst of packing and moving.
Oh, my. And are you staying put in Connecticut?
Yes. In fact, the house is just a couple miles from where we're living now, so it makes the move much easier.
Ah, well, congratulations. Now, do you look for a haunted locale, or do you just you don't want to bring your work home with you?
That's right. I look for peace and quiet.
But do you like spooky old houses?
Well, for investigation purposes and research purposes, but when I'm working and where I want to live, because I'm immersed in the paranormal 24/7 sometimes in a lot of my casework, when I go home, I just want peace and quiet.
I don't blame you. Well, again, congratulations. It's always exciting making a move into a new place, so I wish you the best. So, you've been receiving a lot of reports about doppelgangers. How are people getting in touch with you regarding these, and what are they saying?
I receive a lot of reports by email, and also when I travel and I give talks, I get a lot of comments from people at conventions and conferences. When I do radio shows with call-ins, I get more material. And some things seem to go in waves and trends. And lately I've been getting a lot of inquiries about doppelgangers and also people reporting doppelganger experiences, and they want to know what's going on. So either these experiences are on the rise, or it's a type of experience that is just catching people's awareness, maybe because of shifts in consciousness, or a little bit of both. There are different types of doubles, and these have been documented since ancient times. Some of them are related to death omens, some of them are spontaneous projections, and some of them are projections at will. And they all seem to have different reasons and varying degrees of, I guess what you say, tangible mass, where doubles seem to be like real people, and they'll carry on short conversations and interact with individuals, and others seem to be more vaporous and mysterious. They're seen briefly and then suddenly they're gone.
Now, how common is it for someone to see their own doppelganger as I experienced?
Not very common. And in fact, it's usually a shock to a lot of people.
I'll say.
I imagine it was to you to see your own double.
You know what? I wasn't afraid. I wasn't shocked. I was just really confused. Really confused.
Well, I had an experience once where I saw myself, and it was while I was asleep, and I think that I projected out of body while I was asleep, and then when I woke up, I was in two places at once. And some of these double experiences might even be displacements of time and space.
So it's not a true doppelganger. You're simply seeing your spirit body and as it's exiting your physical body.
That is one form of double. And what happened to me was I was taking a nap on the sofa, and I got up and went into the kitchen, and I felt kind of groggy. And when I came back out into the living room, I saw myself sleeping on the couch. And I was very alarmed because I didn't know why this had happened. And I tried to get back in my body, and I couldn't get back in. And I was able to finally get back in, but it was alarming to see myself and not be able to merge myself. And I didn't know which self was real.
Exactly, yeah. Now, with my experience, this happened, as I say, just after my father's passing. So is there any connection there, or was it just in a moment of, great stress, my astral body left my physical body, or is it possible that my father's spirit assumed my form so as not to frighten me?
My own interpretation would be it was stress-related, and sometimes these experiences happen in heightened states of emotion. And this was documented in the late 19th century by the founding researchers of the Society for Psychical Research in London. They studied cases of survival, and they also investigated hauntings, poltergeists, and one of the things that they examined were doubles, because they were one of the more unexplained phenomena. Well, they came up with a term called arrival cases, and that's where a person arrives at a location before they actually get there. It's like their double gets there first. And they found in interviewing people that heightened states of emotion were related to many cases. So it could be that there are certain psychic conditions involving emotion and energy, and we unwittingly project a double that we might see. We might see ourselves, or other people might see us. That's really more likely, that other people see you in your double form. And the research showed that some of these cases don't seem to have an apparent reason. Now, in folklore, to see somebody's double, is widely believed to be a harbinger of impending death. And that before death, maybe as a way of preparing for death, your double starts disconnecting from the body. But the researchers found that there were many cases where people were out walking around in their doubles and nothing bad happened to them. Now, Percy Bysshe Shelley saw his double before he drowned. That's a very famous case.
Right. I'm familiar with that, yes. Now,
others were left to wonder why. And these are the kinds of cases that I'm hearing about now, where people say, what happened? Why did that happen? I saw so-and-so, a family member or a friend, and then I found out that they weren't even physically present. They were somewhere else in a distant location.
By location.
And why did this happen?
Interesting, throughout history there were reports of Buddhist monks having this ability to bilocate and things. So perhaps that's related as well. We'll talk about that. Rosemary Ellen Guilley, the website is visionaryliving.com, right here on The Conspiracy Show, as we discuss doppelgangers. Perhaps you've had an encounter with a doppelganger. Maybe you've looked at your own image staring back at you, or you've had contact with somebody else's doppelganger. Would love to hear from you, and the phone lines will be made available to you as well. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Serrett. Don't go away.
The truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. You're listening to Richard Syrett's Strange Planet.
And we'd love to hear from you if you've had an experience with a doppelganger, maybe your own or someone else's. And part of the doppelganger phenomena may be by location. And Rosemary, before the break, was talking about, there have been a number of reported cases throughout history of Christian saints and monks having been said to exhibit bilocation. I was just reading about St. Alphonsus Liguori. He was an Italian Catholic bishop and was said to have gone into a trance while preparing for his weekly mass, or his daily mass, rather. And when he came out of the trance, he reported he had visited the bedside of the dying Pope Clement XIV, but his you could say, well, I'm okay, so he had a dream, but his presence at the deathbed of the Pope was confirmed by those in attendance, even though he was about 4 traveled days away. So, that's a perfect example of bilocation, and that's a doppelganger, right?
That would be considered a doppelganger. Padre Pio was another saint who was famous for that, and he said he would get called out by prayer, and that the Virgin Mary would direct him to go and minister to people in need. And some of these experiences happened while he was in states of intense prayer. So it seems that a condition of some of these bilocations of a double, it requires being inactive in one state so that the double can become more active. That is, the person is in like a sleep state or intense altered state of consciousness, like Alphonse Liguori. And then the double has the energy to go and converse and do and interact. There was a woman saint, Venerable Mary of Agreda, who bilocated to the New World and preached to the Native Americans in the Southwest about Christianity. She was known as the Blue Lady. So her double they said she had kind of a blue glow around her, and she made many trips from Europe over to the New World, and it was all by bilocation. Now, saints, people say, well, saints, we sort of expect that of holy people. They're trained or anointed by their holiness to do these sorts of things. But the average person is likely to have at least 1 or 2 experiences with a double, and they take place in ordinary life, involving ordinary things. In fact, we might even be interacting with doubles and not even know it unless we come into information that the person we saw was not physically present.
So in order for that to be happening, in order not to be to be able to differentiate, then the doppelganger must be, we're not talking about some diaphanous, ghostly image. We're talking about a solid figure.
Solid with exact details right down to clothing. Now, a friend of mine had an interesting experience. In fact, his double seems to go walking around more than once. I had an experience with, his name is John Frick, and he's a regular at the Mothman Conference in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I go every year. And one year at the conference, I saw him out on the street during the festival and spoke briefly to him. And I thought I was talking to John. It was just a brief encounter. And then I learned later that he was not there. He was at a distant location getting some of the festival activities ready for the evening. So his double was out walking around on the street. Now, he told me that he had a recent report just within the last month or so from a friend in Michigan who saw his double in Michigan. And he had not traveled there at all. And the weird thing about it was the double was wearing new clothes that he had bought, but he hadn't worn himself yet.
Oh, my word. Oh, my word. Now, when we were talking about saints, that have had the ability to bilocate, and there have been some rather unsaintly individuals as well. I understand Aleister Crowley was reported to have the ability to bilocate, although he wasn't conscious of it. If he would have friends that would tell him that he could bilocate. And then there's Vladimir Lenin. Now, what's the story I've heard about him? He was dying at his apartment in Gorky back in 1923, and meanwhile, widely reported, people saw him in his office at the Kremlin digging through papers.
It seems that when people are close to death, there is some sort of separation of consciousness from the body that happens periodically or on an increasing basis. And this could be seen by others as a double. Why we have experiences that happen as part of ordinary life, that's more puzzling. And are we tuning into ourselves in parallel dimensions? That's a possibility. If we have parallel dimensions around the Earth, we have duplicates of ourselves in those dimensions, and some of them might be nearly exact to the ones that ourselves in this dimension. One of the reports that I got recently concerned a woman who was at home, and she looked out the window and saw her husband drive up in the car, and she thought, oh, he's home early from work. But he never came in the house, and she wondered what happened to him. He wasn't even there. He was on the road driving toward home when she saw him, but he hadn't arrived. So this is like another arrival case where the double gets there first. And these are very puzzling experiences. My feeling is that as we become more aware of the paranormal, and there's an intense interest in the paranormal, we've been experiencing that for the last decade or so, people are tuning in either consciously or unconsciously more to otherworldly things. And we're all being affected by this, and this in turn, I think, makes us more open to these experiences, more aware of them. So our awareness is definitely heightened, and that in turn opens the door to more experiences.
When I confronted my doppelganger, what I did maybe isn't recommended. I don't know, you'll tell me, but the first thing I wanted to figure out was, is this real? Am I actually staring at myself? And so I reached up and I started moving my hands through this figure, and it just dissipated, and then it got sucked into the corner of a room. It just like shrank and then into a singularity and went boom right into the corner of a room. Is that potentially dangerous if that's my astral body that I'm looking at, and I sort of move my hands through it and then it just disappears? Is there any harm that can come to me?
That's a big unknown, and it sounds like you saw a double of yourself perhaps in an alternate reality, which is where it is all the time, and there was a doorway open between this reality and that reality. Where people have reported problems, and this exists in the literature as well about out-of-body projections, it's when you are out traveling in your double and something happens to the body, then you might have difficulty getting back in or suffering some sort of consequence. But in your experience, the seat of your consciousness seemed to be in your physical body, and you were looking at a double that wasn't fully in this reality.
Although some have said the same for me. Larry is in Bowmanville. Larry, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. Bowmanville, Ontario, I take it.
That's correct.
Welcome, Larry. Your question, comment? Have you had an experience with a doppelganger?
Yes, I have, and it's very, very interesting that my experience way back in 1976 in London, England, was so similar to yours. Basically, what happened was, first of all, I was in dorm and I was asleep. Then, during my sleep, I suddenly felt part of me separating from the part of me that was actually asleep in bed. So it started hovering above and above and above me, and it was facing the ceiling area. So then I said to myself, whatever this is, let me try turning to the left and see if my new body would shift leftwards. It started shifting leftwards. Then I tried shifting in the opposite direction, rightward, and it started shifting rightward. Then I said to myself, let me make a full 180-degree turn to see if I would see myself on the bed. This is viewing from just beneath the ceiling at the time. I started rotating to make this 180-degree turn, and then I said to myself, whoa, hold on, Larry. If you see yourself lying on the bed, looking at yourself, you're going to be kind of scared. So rotate back to your original position and sink yourself back into your body. This I did. I went back into my body, and that was sort of the culmination of the experience.
That's a great experience, Larry. I mean, that sounds like the classic out-of-body experience, Rosemary, that one usually associates with a near-death experience.
Correct. And the thing about it is, what it did teach me was, don't push it. It exists. Even if you become scared, retreat and go back into yourself and let it be.
Good advice, Larry. I think that was wise, not to turn around to catch a glimpse of yourself lying in the bed. Rosemary, what do you think?
Well, he had an amazing amount of lucidity in that experience and presence of mind. Many people, when they have spontaneous experiences like that, they get a shock, and it's disorienting, and that can be very, very upsetting. Sometimes the experience is over with from the shock. You see yourself, and then the shock zips you back in the body. But yes, these experiences do happen, and we're probably not meant to be aware of them as often as they do happen.
All right, Larry in Bowmanville, thank you for that. Now, most often, I'm guessing, people aren't able to communicate with a doppelganger, or is that true? I mean, you communicated with a doppelganger of your friend, but is it more likely that you can't communicate with a doppelganger?
A lot of times doppelgangers are seen at a distance, so people don't have the opportunity to communicate. But there are many cases on record where conversations have been carried on with doppelgangers, and that's doubly shocking to the witnesses when they find out that they weren't talking to the physical person. So it seems to vary. And there seem to be different degrees of projections or, whatever it is that goes out in our exact form, and differing abilities of these forms, different energy levels to interact. In arrival cases, people are usually just seen, and there's often not a whole lot of conversation. But there are other cases where complete conversations take place. Now, there's another explanation for doubles, too, and I think that this does occur. I'm not sure what the frequency of them are, but it's spirits masquerading as people. And the foundation for this does exist in the magical traditions, where spirits are said to have the ability to slip on a personality like a glove, and that this is one thing they do in haunted locations. They can mimic the ghosts of the dead by acquiring their personality and appearing, if they appear as an apparition, to appear as that person.
Are you talking about a demon, Rosemary? A demon would do this? A trickster?
Demons, trickster entities. It's said that the jinn can do this sort of thing. But in magical lore, yes, it would be a demonic kind of entity. And by demonic, I'm not necessarily meaning evil entity, just kind of an interfering entity. And that if an entity wants to have an experience as a person or play tricks or something, they can walk around as that person's double. I think that accounts for a very small number of double cases.
All right, Rosemary, listen, I appreciate you dropping by and explaining doppelgangers, and I think I know what happened to me now. I think just in a moment of extreme stress after my father's death, my spirit body left my physical body, and I caught a glimpse of it. Very rare indeed, very confusing, but I feel much better about it now. Thank you for that. And we'll talk to you next month. Rosemary Ellen Guilley.
Thank you, Richard. Good night.
Good night. VisionaryLiving.com is the website. When we come back, bioacoustics, medicine of the future or an ancient mystery revealed.
As you're staring up at the night sky, ever wonder who's staring back? You're listening to Richard Syrett's Strange Planet.
Had an interesting conversation with Sean David Morton over the weekend by phone. He's going to be featured in an episode of the TV show in season 3. Several episodes, actually. Interviewed him in Los Angeles, and he's coming on the radio program in a couple of weeks. He has a book out. Wasn't picked up by a major publisher, but it sold over 10,000 copies of the hardcover. It's sort of an underground bestseller, if you will. It's called The Sands of Time, and he's going to join us here on the program, as I say, in a couple of weeks to talk about the secret space program. And this is a guy whose father worked for Northrop, I guess, and knew people like Ben Rich, who was working was running Skunk Works, which was, I believe, Lear's experimental wing, Lear of Learjet fame. And so Northrop was sort of the competitor, but his father knew Ben Rich, and so Sean grew up knowing all of the old astronauts as well. And the stuff that they told him would just curl your toes, and he's going to share some of that on this very program. Right now, we're going to talk about we've been talking about what ails us these days. Several weeks ago, we had Dr. Cass Ingram on talking about how the cure is to be found in the forest, and health care dollars are at a premium these days, and the stresses and strains on the healthcare system, both here and in the United States, it's at the breaking point, really, and so we're beginning to see rationing of healthcare. We're seeing that here in Canada. We're also seeing a growing mistrust of mainstream medicine. We've talked about fluoride. We've talked about vaccines. We've talked about chemtrails and so forth, and EMF. Well, there's something on the horizon. It's here now, actually. In fact, AT&T called bioacoustics the new medicine. And we're going to delve into Human BioAcoustic Biology right now with a pioneer in the study of same. And she's going to explain how the human voice and other associated frequencies can help resolve health issues such as macular degeneration, multiple sclerosis, headaches, muscle stress, brain trauma, weight issues, nutritional concerns. Again, it's being hailed as the medicine of the future, although some are saying it's really an ancient mystery that's been rediscovered. Sharry Edwards is the director of the Institute BioAcoustic Biology in Albany, Ohio. The technology she brings to the stage is cutting edge. This technology can identify health and well-being possibilities that you've never encountered. Her work is now included in the Duke University Encyclopedia of New Medicine by Leonard A. Wisniewski and the Scientific Basis of Integrative Medicine by Lucy Anderson. The effects of bioacoustic biology, now accepted by these prestigious medical encyclopedias, have unlimited health and wellness potential. Sharry Edwards, welcome to The Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Great to be back.
Yes, it's been a while. Bioacoustics, bioacoustic biology, what does that mean exactly?
Life, sound.
Oh, is that all? Life and everything?
Yeah, well, the sounds of life. We've proven that every cell has a sound, gives off a sound, sends signals, calls other frequencies and sounds to it, and that's the way the body heals itself. And we study that system through vocal profiling.
So the sound of our voice, our vocal print, if you will,
yes,
can tell us a great deal about our physical state of being.
Incredibly, it can, because all of those frequencies are math-based from the central processing unit, the brain, and all of these frequencies run on your neural network. We are far beyond conventional medicine in looking at people holistically. We had a lady in a couple weeks ago. Her feet were hurting really bad. She had several operations. They'd taken out some bones, and they just kept giving her pain pills, Vicodin. And she was just woozy and couldn't walk around because of these pain pills. So we took her print, took about 30 seconds, and the computer said that she had gout. And we gave her the anti-frequencies for gout, and her pain went away. The body knows.
What are some of the markers in the human voice that are sort of red flags for illness or ailments?
Well, one is calcitonin, which is the note of C when it goes into stress. And calcitonin monitors serum calcium, and it's a precursor to cancer. So we have looked at a lot of these in looking at people. We just did a big project on Parkinson's in the clinic and found out that a lot of these new things that they're calling Parkinson's really aren't. It's radiation poisoning.
Oh, my.
And again, I think people are being lied to. I think the government has just decided it doesn't want to take any responsibility or do anything about this. There are people talking about it. There's a nice article by James Apsley on his site, Dr. Apsley, APSLEY.com.
Yes, we've had Jim on the show a number of times. Listen, let me just cut in here, Sharry. We're going to take a time out. We'll come back, and we'll pick up on that point. Parkinson's being misdiagnosed. It's radiation poison. Back with more of my conversation with Sharry Edwards on bioacoustics, the new medicine, or ancient mystery revealed.
It's time to redefine reality. This is Richard Syrett's Strange Planet.
Sharry Edwards is with us. She's the director of the Institute of BioAcoustic Biology in Albany, Ohio. And her research, 30 years worth, she says, proves beyond a doubt the vocal print, your vocal print, can identify toxins, pathogens, and nutritional supplements or deficiencies that are too low or too high. In addition, the vocal print can be used to match the most compatible treatment remedy to each client. The introduction of the proper low-frequency sound of the body, indicated through voice analysis, has been shown to control pain, body temperature, heat rhythm, and heart rhythm, and blood pressure. So, Sharry, so the vocal print can be used to diagnose, but also to heal?
Well, we're not allowed to say that. We use every client that we get as adding to our database, and we use it as education. But the outcome is that we're supporting optimal form and function, and if people get well, that's their problem.
That's quite a problem to have. So how would the frequency be utilized in order to promote good health, let's say?
Just like in the air, like you would hear it. But one of the things that we're
are we talking about musical notes or the human voice? What are we talking about?
Well, it sort of sounds like kind of in the background, like a motor.
Interesting. Okay.
But we're providing people information. I am so upset about the government lying to us and trying to treat us like stupid dogs and saying there's nothing going on with this radiation, that I have created a computer program that we are giving away to people along with a class and along with a textbook. No questions asked. It just needs to be done because we're being lied to.
Now, you're talking about the Fukushima disaster, and you pointed out in an article that in the December 2011 issue of Internal Journal of Health, Journal of Health Services, they estimated more than 14,000 people in the United States are linked to the radioactive fallout associated with the nuclear disaster in Japan. So 14,000 Americans have some sort of radiation poisoning?
It looks like it, and we have created charts that people can use to back this off nutritionally, and if they've really gotten a big dose, we'd send them to a bioacoustic practitioner, but we would lots rather just give them the software. We couldn't serve 14,000 people if we wanted to. We're just not big enough. But if we could teach people to do it for themselves, I think we're going to see a lot less disease down the road, like Dr. Apsley is saying when he's on your show. In Chernobyl, for instance, one of his statistics is that infant deaths went up like 900% after Chernobyl. And I think we're going to see the same thing here, but I think they're going to try to hide the statistics. So everybody's complaining and talking about it. We're providing solutions and options to people, and we'd like them to download this software and use it and then tell us how they're doing, particularly the people on the Pacific Coast where they seem to be getting hit a lot. So they can go to our site, soundhealthoptions.com, and download this, and we can give you the links if you want. We can give you the charts, and you can get it to all of your people if you want. This is our gift to the world.
So you go to this website and you download the software for free, and then you'll need some sort of a microphone, I guess. This is an audio recording platform that they're downloading, right? And so you're gonna capture your own voice print by speaking into a microphone on your computer, or I guess even an external mic would do. But the better the mic, the better. I'm guessing the better quality the mic, the better.
3 different mics. We don't want a vocal mic because they're filtered.
Ah, okay.
We want a microphone, something like a Dynex USB, which is about $20, or a Logitech. Those are on the textbook. It shows you right in the little textbook that you can download. It tells you which microphones to get. And then away you go, and you can do it for you and your neighbors and your family. And because there's so much cell-signaling disease ending up on our door, doctors send us a lot of patients that they don't know what to do with because they don't know what's going on. So the computer will tell you underneath what's going on, and it's cell signaling, and people are radiation poisoned, and they've called it Lou Gehrig's disease and MS and Parkinson's and immune deficiency, and it's not really. People are poisoned.
Now, this vocal print that you capture with this, and this is free software you're offering.
Yes.
Once you capture your own vocal print, I mean, how do you interpret the data? Because, you've spent 30 years doing this. We're novices. We don't know.
The computer pops out the reports. Says, you're poisoned with this. Here's a chart that will tell you a nutritional antidote and how it got in your body and what it's competing with.
That's pretty sophisticated software. Who developed that?
I did.
Wow. That's 30 years in the making, I'm guessing.
It is, but it comes from a very esoteric talent that I'm able to hear sounds from people, like their signature sound, which they now know is an otoacoustic emission. So this comes from Templar literature, of where the Templars and Pythagoras and other kinds of ancient people could listen to people's sounds and tell what was going on with them. I've just computerized it, so 7 little clicks of a button, and you got a report.
And this free software, though, although you're talking about radiation poisoning, it's not limited to that type of ailment, correct? Or is it?
No, we have 71 different softwares. We just did a show tonight on cholesterol. We're doing one on Tuesday night of this week on flu, and to see if people have been exposed to flu. Gardasil is another one. I am so outraged about what the government is doing with Gardasil and poisoning our children. You look at this and you can see by the math of it that it really is an infertility drug.
Yes.
And I think
that's
this is
interesting.
the way that we can look at what the ancients knew, but we got computers to do it because we're kind of lazy and not really patient with sitting there trying to figure things out by hand.
Sharry Edwards is with us, and again, she is a pioneer in the study of human bioacoustic biology. Now, tell me about this quote from AT&T. Now, why AT&T? Why did they weigh in on this? They're the ones calling this the new medicine.
Well, they're actually looking at it as bioacoustic, life sound, and they say the body makes sounds that can be interpreted for security reasons. They have not figured out how to do it with medicine yet. There's some things, slight things that they know that if the sounds of the liver are this, then that the liver is stressed. But they really haven't figured out all of it. We just been sitting here because, well, honestly, I'm afraid of the government. I think a lot of people in the United States are afraid of the government. I'm afraid to say that we have a computer program that can tell what damage did to your kids from vaccinations. They could name me as a domestic terrorist, and I could be sitting in jail someplace. So there's two types of getting the information to the public. Top down, which is go out there whole hog and go on USA Today and whatever, and then there's bottom up. Take it to the people. And so that's what I did. We have a lot of free programs and free software. We just did a 2-day course of free software for muscles and nutrition and radiation. We need to get a community, a bioacoustic community in every center. You were talking about biohazards before. There was a question about what do we do about this. Well, we have a program, biohazards. What are you poisoned with?
So each software program is sort of grooved to a particular ailment. Is that correct?
It is, and then we have overview software for the professional if they want to do it that way. But the computer will tell you where you need to go and what you need to do. You can sing, you can have music, you can do it with color, you can do it with food, you can do it with nutrients, you can do it with sound.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, Sharry, but listening to the sound of my voice, granted it's going through a filtered microphone and compression through AM radio, but is there any red flags, anything that jumps out in terms of my vocal architecture, if you will?
Absolutely. I looked at your architecture when you were talking about the sleeping prophet. That was what was going on.
Yes.
And there was a lot of, I want to participate in this, a lot of usefulness. But you are a multifaceted person. You tend to change your energy to the person and what's going on. It's not a rare trait, but it's not very common. So I was looking at your voice and everybody else's voice as they were going through all of this. And by the way, I have done an evaluation of Hellier's voice, and he absolutely believes in the UFOs.
Paul Hellier, our former Deputy Prime Minister, yes.
He very much believes, but he very much knows that there's mismanagement, and he wants to be involved in the management of this first encounter. So I'll send you that report.
That'd be fascinating. Now, so in other words, you can also tell from someone's vocal architecture. Well, we know from lie detector tests and so forth that you can tell someone's truthfulness or sincerity based on their. Okay, but in terms of health concerns, is there anything in my voice that jumps out?
A little bit of immune information that deals with your sinuses, but the top of the sinuses up toward the eyes. And there's a little bit of information missing about wet, moist tissues. So if anything's going to happen to you real soon, it's going to be something nasal or throat or bronchial.
Well, you nailed it. I mean, that's my weakness, is my chest. I'm very susceptible to sort of bronchitis and those sorts of things. So there you go.
We do this for people online all the time. We have them send us a print, and we can tell them why they have Parkinson's, why they have heart disease, why they have high blood pressure. But we'll do it for you, but we'd lots rather teach you to do it. And by the way, Rosemary was telling the truth.
Rosemary Ellen Guilley. Oh, regarding doppelgangers. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Now, soundhealthoptions.com. That's the website, soundhealthoptions.com. I've linked up to that on my site at richardsyrett.com. All people have to do is click on your name under tonight's show, Sharry Edwards, and that'll take them to the soundhealthoptions.com website. And then from there, how do they download the free software again?
It's in the middle column, and that's the radiation one. There's also one there on 9/11. That's another software. We warned them years ago what was going to happen and what those toxins were doing. And we also looked at people's voices who were involved in 9/11, and we know who knew the most.
All right, Sharry, listen, this is a remarkable technology, and I hope people will download the software and get back to us and let us know the outcome. Sharry Edwards And again, the website is soundhealthoptions.com. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.
All right, we'll do it again sometime. Thank you to Tim Spreen, my technical producer, and I hope you'll be along next week. Got a good show for you.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe at strangeplanetpodcast.com.